302. Welcome to my pad. This your lab. Go create your movie. I got a crib out of
What's good, everybody? Welcome to 99 Miles Per Hour with me, your host, Perci Garner, where we talk about life and sports and everything in between. All right, guys, welcome to the first episode where we are going to be interviewing myself, Perci Garner, the host, which is going to be weird, but hey, we're going to get it. You know, we want to make sure you guys know me before we get going. And we're going to have someone special who is basically gave me the nudge into the podcasting world, and I appreciate that. But his name is Josh Hall, and he is with Get Level Podcast Network, and he is going to be producing this for me, and he's also going to be asking for me. How you doing, Josh?
Doing real good, yeah. I mean, typically on this show, you're doing the interviews with people, so it's a little bit of a reverse order today.
Yeah, so it's going to be exciting. I'm actually excited. I've never, prepared for interviews. They've kind of just happened, and I'm always looking at them after like, ill. So I'm excited. I kind of know the questions. I cheated.
You know most of them.
Yeah. True. We're gonna find out some hidden stuff from Josh, I guess, that
That's
I'm not
right.
prepared for.
A couple Percy stories from my memory. So those will be interesting.
Yeah, but so other than you just going down these question list, I'm probably just gonna just ramble on about my life, I guess, because I've given speeches and I've sort of done the story, but I do want to get a little bit deeper on this episode instead of just saying all the pretty things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then every episode after this, because it's going to be Welcome to 99 Mile an Hour with Perci Garner. But who is Perci Garner?
Yeah.
So this is the episode to let everybody know.
Yes. And there's a lot of good things, obviously, but there's also some sad things and some stuff I should not share, but we're going to. So the purpose of the podcast, I want to get deep and everything there that is life. So we're gonna get into it. So I was born December 13th. No, I'm joking. But no, seriously, I just want to talk about, I guess growing up, there's a lot of stuff people don't know. So, I mean, a couple of questions I have here, me and Josh kind of grew up playing sports together, and I think I might have met Josh after I matured a little bit. So the year before we played on the Custom Wood Design or whatever like that, I had been thrown out a couple games for throwing temper tantrums.
Oh, you're right. I actually, I kind of remember young Percy with the temper.
Yes. So I was ultra competitive. Didn't like to lose, and when I lost, all the world kept.
And that was like what age though? Because we're talking minor league.
Yeah, I'm talking. Yeah, coach pitch like 7, 8, 9 ish age.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first time I remember at my old age now. Is
careful,
you're close behind. Yeah. I think was a basketball game at the Y where we lost, and I think Micah was on the other team and beat me. And in case for y'all don't know, Micah Mills, he'll be on this podcast at some point. We'll get him on here, but we were good friends growing up, and he was competitive as well. He still is, but. He beat me, and I didn't like that. So, and my dad was on me. He was strict. Grew up in a strict household, which I think helped me long term. But at the time, I was like, "Oh man, my life sucks. My dad's so mean. This is terrible." But we'll get to that as well.
Well, there real quick, because you're Perci Garner the third.
Yes, I am.
Right?
Well, technically, I'm Percival Garner the third.
Yes.
Actually, we just and this just happened 2 days ago. I just lost my grandpa, who is Percival Garner 1. He is the original.
The original.
Yes. And he was 90 and had dementia, and this COVID-19 thing kind of, I guess, progressed his dementia because he's social like me. We like to talk, and he obviously wasn't able to see as many of the family members and all the people around his nursing home that he was in at Park Village. So I think that led to that. But, now he's resting. And he's made an impact on my life. We'll also talk about all the people that made impacts on my life moving forward. But get back to me. So I guess the biggest one I wanted to talk about was coach pitch. I forget what team I played on the coach pitch, but a guy, if you know baseball, you know, not everything's a force out. So there was a dude on second, not first. The guy hit the ball, or the kid?
The guy.
The guy.
A 7-year-old guy.
Yeah. The kid hit the ball. I picked it up, stepped on third, and then tried to throw to first, try to get double play.
Oh, yep.
And they called the dude safe at third, and I just lost it, you know. And my
You got to tag him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and you know, I thought I knew what was going on, but just to give you a little, you know, background of how I acted whenever I lost. And I think that just instilled in my family. You know, my family is full of athletes. You know, my dad was a different type of athlete. So he was a thinner guy and ran track.
Was he tall?
He was about 6'1".
Okay.
So I got him by an inch a little bit, but yeah, he was a receiver, you know, known for his speed. And as you know, Josh,
Not so much.
I was not. I got my
Unhitch
mom's
the
side,
wagon,
but-
Percy, right?
Yeah, you know, just running with cylinders and cinder blocks on my feet. But no, man, just, you know, hearing all the stories. Actually, I walked into a gas station, and this is the first time this happened. And I don't know if this sounds very egotistical, but I walked into a gas station, and the woman at the cash register goes, "Hey, are you Perci Garner?" I'm like, she was like, "Wait, no." She asked, "Do you know Perci Garner?" I'm like, "Yeah." And the whole time I'm like, "I'm him." Like, and she goes, "Yeah, he was the football player." I go, "Yeah, that was me." She goes, No, you're way too young." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Are you talking about my dad?" She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, wow." I was like, "Okay, that's the first time that happened." But yeah, my dad was, you know, super athlete, play every sport, basketball, no matter what it is, baseball, strong arm, and all that. And he never got above 180 pounds. I was 185 as a freshman in high school. So
Wow. Okay.
that's why I was slow. I was bigger, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then my mom, on the other hand, was this freak of nature basketball player. Like, back in the day, you know, she's bragging, "Yeah, in college, they bought my shoes as a freshman and I started." I was like, "Oh, wow, they bought your shoes, Mom?" But, you know, basketball was my favorite sport, believe it or not. You know, I wasn't as good as my parents, but, no, I hear all the stories and I ruined my mom's life because she was in college when she had me. So, but she says she's proud of that. But
Now, was she tall?
she was
Yeah.
like 5'10", 5'11".
Okay.
Yeah. So
All right.
yeah, she was, and she would play basketball. I don't know if you're too young for this, but the bottoms. Do you know where the bottoms are, or down the hill? We used to call it. It's. Do you know where Larry D'Onofrio's Pizza was?
No.
Yeah, you a young buck. I know you're not that young than me, but
I'm like 6 months younger than
yeah.
you.
Well, this place is over actually by the high school. So, but it used to have, it's super high grass, and the grass might come up to your chest now, but
Okay.
it was a nice a nice area to play when I was growing up. And they had basketball courts. But before I was born, my mom used to play with the men down there, and they would literally say that she would win sometimes. And these weren't just men they actually played on Dover's varsity basketball team.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, my mom was a top-notch athlete as well.
That's impressive. That's
Yes.
impressive.
Yes. So my parents were, I would say, elite athletes. And, yeah, no, I tried to live up to their name as much as I could. But when my mom came and saw me play basketball, she was like, "Shoot the ball." I'm like, "Mom, we got a system. I'm not the superstar like you." Okay.
I remember watching you play basketball.
How was
Yeah.
that?
Well, it wasn't the same as football. You're right. You were not the main focus on the basketball team.
Yes. I was good at setting picks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
No, you were good down low. Big guy.
Yeah.
You got them power legs.
That's why Coach Markin put me down.
Yep.
I like shooting and coming off picks, but he turned me into a power forward, even though I was only 6'2". But
I don't know. In high school, 6'2" is pretty decent,
yeah, I guess, especially
around here.
Yeah. But we had Bryce, who was 6'8" at the time,
Bryce was so tall.
and Eric Dimmermuth, 6'6". So he was your class, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he was on ESPN at one point.
Yeah, he was. That's right.
Yeah, but
We got to get him in here too sometime.
Oh yeah, see,
Yep.
we're thinking of people.
Yep.
We gotta make a list.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, man. Just growing up with all this. My brother played football. He actually Coach If. My brother's junior year, I think, was Coach If's first year coaching at Dover.
So how much older is he than you, your brother?
Like around 10 years.
Okay. Let's say, because I never knew your brother.
Yeah. So he was a lot older than us. He went to McKinley or went to Timpkin, and actually our cousin was the principal at Timpkin and kind of kicked him out of Timpkin. Oh. So he came to Dover, which is a blessing for Dover. Mm-hmm. So, and there's going to be I don't know if I'm supposed to share this, but there's going to be a documentary on Dover versus Philly. And I just found out that me and my brother are the only two family members to be MVP of the Dover Philly game.
Really?
So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Ooh, when's that coming out?
I don't know. The dude's interviewing out. He's going hard. It's going to be good. I think he's interviewed like 100 people.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to see that.
Yeah. And I learned a lot of things about Dover and Philly that I did not know. But I love how we just are covering everything. I love it. But I want to, obviously I was competitive as a child. Everybody in my family, we're all athletes. Most of the time I played harder outside, playing backyard football and, playing basketball. You ever played 33? You ever
yeah. We played 33 so much back in the day.
Oh my gosh. I literally just played 2 nights ago at my boss's house. At Steve's. It was me, Jamal, and Drexel. We were all playing. And Drex is, he's 23 at the time. So he's...
that game gets competitive.
Oh my. No fouls, of course.
No.
But we were all huffing.
You have no friends during that game.
No.
While you're playing, everybody is again. Yeah, it's crazy.
And, I was huffing and puffing after my first drive to the rim. I was like, oh, man, I see why people just pull up for jump shots now.
I'm worn out just talking about it.
Yeah. But, so those games is where I think I advanced my competitiveness, and I hope my son has friends to play those games, Mm-hmm. But those games, man, they drive your competitive nature, and I think it had a big impact on me. But, speaking of, my childhood, man, I just, growing up in Dover, so we're going to get into some different stuff, but we just had fun, Now we're going to get into some stuff. So, my parents split up. I think it was because my dad was a Steelers fan, my mom was a Browns fan. So that probably contributed to it. And both of them had, I would say, impacts in different natures. So my dad, was in the Air Force, strict military background, and my mom was like a worrywart and, just worried about everything. And, Percy, I just don't want you to do this, So having those, both sides, plus I had my grandma and, both of my grandmas, and this is going to be funny, Grandma Donnie and Grandma Connie. So my mom's mom is Connie and my dad's mom was Donnie. So I lived with my Grandma Donnie, who might have had the biggest impact on my life within my family. Because I lived with her, my dad, he was a grinder. He woke up early and just worked all day. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to wake up early. So I lived with my grandma. And she just, obviously she didn't put the fear in my heart like my dad did. Uh-huh. But, she knew how to, get the best out of me. And she also knew how to love me where I felt, at some points I felt like my dad, he was so rough on me. He just didn't love me, Mm-hmm. But obviously now I know that how it goes. Now with me raising my own son, I know how that goes. But I just know that she knew how to approach me in a different way to get through, and my dad approached me a different way, and he got through as well. I mean, how similar to you? Did you have your grandparents? Obviously, grandparents spoil us, but
yeah, yes they do. Yeah. Yes they do. Yeah, grandparents. I guess everybody for me too had a different impact in a different way, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's grandparents, everybody loves their grandparents.
Yeah. Well, and too, I see what you're saying exactly. Because when you grow up and you're older and you kind of understand a little bit more about life and just the human nature, really, you kind of can pinpoint certain things in your past and say, well, at that point I thought he was being a total jerk, but no, he wasn't. Or, that was just some people, it's that generation too. It's just the way they were raised, and the way they grew up. And when you get older, you kind of understand certain points of view, and okay, I see why, my grandpa always said this, or whatever it is.
Yeah. And it was, back then when I was growing up, being punished physically, being whooped was like normal.
Yep.
And now I feel like, but a couple of my teammates, we'd always have these great talks in the bullpen. And whooping your kids was, the common term they were using were beating. And I was like, no, I'm not going to beat because they were like, Percy, you're going to beat your kids? I'm like, no, but, I'm going to punish them if they, need that. And I've noticed in my son, he's scared of everything I say. And, my daughter, she's just, she's stubborn and doesn't listen. Obviously she's one, but I think she's going to need those whoopings. I think. But I got whooped a lot as a child, believe it or not, even though you probably think I'm an angel. But
I can't believe it, man. After all those temper tantrums on the ball field.
No, I broke a lot of windows coming from hitting rocks with baseball bats and throwing a lot of rocks. So those led to a lot of whoopings. But like my relationship with my dad, I do kind of like wish, because him passing my freshman year in high school, we didn't have the relationship I wanted to have now because of how our thoughts was like, oh my gosh, he's so mean and stuff like that. And then you obviously figure out later in life that no, he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. Parents really aren't supposed to be our friends most of the time. I mean, they can't have moments where and I want to be that person for my son to talk to whenever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's one of those things when you grow up, like I know I've got I've got a great relationship with both of my parents now, and it's that grown up adult, relationship where, you guys are still going to give me advice and I'm going to come to you for, advice and things like that. But we can just kick it sometimes, and that's great.
Yeah. And I got to talk to your mom. She didn't think I remembered her. I'm like, come on. But I take pride in remembering people's names, I remember a lot of things about people because I just love people. And
people appreciate that.
Yeah. I know how I felt if someone forgot my name. I'm like, dang, man. So I take pride in that. And, I have different exercises when I meet someone. Mm-hmm. So their first sentence they say to me is just out the door because I'm just like repeating their name in my head.
I got to get better at that because a lot of times I'll walk away and say, oh, no. What did she say her name was?
I think that's how most people are. But yeah, with my dad, the impact he had actually outside the home, everyone was like, your dad's the greatest, your dad's this. And he reffed like high school and middle school basketball games and games at the YMCA. And, people love him for that. He's got the classic throwing a parent out at a girls' basketball game. That was hilarious. But he actually reffed one of my 8th grade scrimmages.
Oh, yeah?
And I tried to draw a charge. It was clearly a charge. And he just sprints up at me going over the top and blows his whistle and calls a block and stares at me and does the block sign. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that was a great moment. But what he was doing was preparing me. I mean, as a young kid, you don't know how, life's going to be. You think, oh, I just want to grow up, so I don't have to go to school or whatever. And then now we're like, dang, school was actually, wasn't that bad.
No, it was easy back then.
Yeah. But now we got bills and stuff. But just from my mom's perspective, because they split up, I want to say I was probably early elementary, maybe. I can't remember. But I have so many siblings. So when they split up, I only have one full sister, and that's Markeisha. She graduated in 2010. And then I have a total of 4 sisters and 2 brothers. And I'm like right in the middle. It's 2 older sisters, 2 younger sisters, 1 older brother, 1 younger brother.
Wow.
But only Markeisha is the one that my mom and dad both had. My dad was married before my mom, and then my mom got married after my dad.
Okay.
This G Fuel has got me jacked up. And G Fuel stands for gamer fuel. Because I'm a gamer. But no, but my mom, she wanted to be that friend. And when she had been involved, once she married my stepdad, she had been involved in drug trafficking. So this is all goes down in Dover. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there was a big drug bust in Dover in the neighborhood I grew up. You know, we call it the hood of Dover, basically. But I mean, we don't really call it that, but that's what, you know, someone looking in would, oh, that must be our hood. But it was on Washington Street next to the fairgrounds. But yeah, I came home from school and there's helicopters and stuff. It was crazy. So my mom went to prison from me being in 8th grade my sophomore year. But before that, she was more, you know, not as bad as my dad, but she would, you know, discipline me if I needed discipline. And the relationship had a different dynamic back then. You know, I would look at her different. But then when she got out of prison, she turned to this marshmallow, super softy, like, I love you guys. I left you guys for 3 years. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to be the nicest person ever now. And I would tell her, like, that's not what we need, especially my sisters. And then the impact my stepdad, it was, you know, he was, so he did both. So he did the drugs and he sold the drugs.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So he was, as a sober, we'll even say this, when he was drunk, he was fine. But whenever he would, you know, do the drugs, like, I'm not talking about marijuana, I'm talking about, you know, worse stuff.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It was just not a pretty sight, and abused my mom. So when I got to a certain age, you know, I was pretty big early on. Like we talked about my freshman year, I was over 180 pounds and of the same height I am now. And I was lifting, you know, Coach If had us on the program. Yeah. So, you know, that kind of stopped, you know, and it was funny to see that. And I want to say it was funny because he, you know, wasn't hitting my mom anymore, but it was just funny the first time it happened. Like after the fact, I kind of chuckled to myself like, dang, I must be, you know, getting pretty big, you know, because he was like making it a point. Like I ain't hit after all these years of, you know, being my mom. Now that I'm like, I think I was like 13 or 14 at the time. And he's like, you know, making it a point to let me know, like, I'm not hitting her, you know, I'm not doing this. And my mom, you know, so it was like, it was a big jump. So now I could no longer have to worry about my mom, you know, so that was good. But, you know, the fact of them both being gone and, you know, my dad being gone, I ended up living with my aunt Susie, who was my dad's sister. Her real name is Esther, but my dad came up with the nickname Susie. I don't know where it's not close to Esther, but living with her, my uncle, their household was so stable compared to what I was used to growing up in. So it was just a big change of pace. It was like a, you know, family. They treated me like I was their son, which sparked when my mom got out of prison, it sparked a little friction between my aunt and my mom. So that was a little weird because my aunt Susie had already been like in the Dover community. She was homecoming queen when she was in high school, and everyone knew who she was. She'd lived here her whole life, and her impact in the community and who she was, you know, compared to my mom's image in the community was a lot different. And she didn't feel comfortable around, you know, the Dover football moms, even though they never did anything to shun her out, but you know, this is not her crowd. So, that dynamic was, you know, it was almost to a point where I just had to go, hey, adult ladies, relax. You're my aunt, you're my mom. I love you both. You guys both are great. But going through that made it, you know, I guess, and I never looked at this, like when my parents passed, I never looked at like, oh man, my life is hard. You know, I'm facing all this adversity. Why God, why are you putting me through this? I kind of just, and I guess I skipped over a lot. Like the reason I have that background with God is because of my dad and my aunt and my grandma, Donnie. They, you know, my aunt and my grandma, they like made me go to church, and it was not, you know, a fun experience. But then when my dad, you know, gave his life over to God and changed his life, you know, because my dad used to, you know, smoke weed and drink and hang out with all his friends and do all that stuff. And then once he, you know, kind of changed his life and gave his life to God, it was like a huge impact and a huge like 180 turnaround.
Well, when was that? How old were you?
I want to say 5th grade. I was in 5th grade when that happened.
So old enough to recognize a change like that and kind of understand the differences.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And now that made me get involved in church. I got into kids kindness ministries. I was going around the nursing homes, like singing hymns to older people. So it was fun. But him having that impact was huge. Prior to that, he was just the mean guy who I know I could learn sports from. Basically, he was a coach who actually had permission to put his hands on me.
Whoopee.
Yes. And one funny story about my dad. So one Christmas, me and my younger sisters, were staying with my dad, and we woke up too early. So my dad wasn't the wealthiest man. We had picked out our Christmas gifts. We bought outfits from Walmart like 2 weeks before Christmas. And then we couldn't open. Of course, he wrapped it up and put it under a tree. Then we got up too early. It was like 7:45. I'm like, seriously. So we opened our gifts without him down there.
Oh.
He comes down once he hears all the madness, tapes up the gifts, and says, you guys can open these tomorrow.
Christmas is postponed.
Yes. Because he did tell us, don't open anything until I get down there.
Oh, man.
And he was up, but he was, probably reading his Bible or doing something. And we didn't want to wait.
Kids don't want to wait.
So that was a funny story of my dad. He had some legendary punishments. He wasn't always, whooping us with his belt. He had some legendary punishments that kind of hurt us more than the whoopings.
Well, clearly, because you don't forget that one.
Oh, never. Never going to forget that. I always want to threaten Perps, like, hey, if you don't listen, Christmas will be postponed. But, hopefully he doesn't listen to this, because at that point I knew presents didn't come from.
Yeah.
But nah, even though, my dad, when my mom, the Christmases compared to my dad and my mom were so different. So my mom obviously was, selling drugs. But she hid it well. Our house and our car wasn't great. But if you walk in, you're like, what the heck? So my Christmases were crazy with my mom. She literally had one of my dad's friends who, full beard, almost like Mr. Perry, looked just like Santa Claus. He would come to our house at like 2 a.m. with a bag of all the presents we wanted, like our whole list. And we'd sit on the lap. We'd say, hey, we want this. He'd pull it out, give it to us. We open it. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, she went all out for Christmas. And so, when I feel bad about this. This is terrible. I like Jordan sneakers growing up. I blame that on my brother. He had a basement full of Jordans, and I would steal them once I wore his shoe size, and then I would take a butt whooping later that day. But my mom would buy me these Jordans, right? So once she went to prison, she said, I visited her in prison, and I was like, Mom, I don't want you to, do what you did anymore, but I just want one more pair of Jordans. Just super superficial kid. Like, come on now, how bad can you get? Yeah, those weren't the best days. But I mean, have you like the way you growing up with me and stuff like that, did you have any idea this stuff was going on?
No, I did not. Nope. And I think that's kind of goes back to what you said a little bit ago about not taking everything and saying, oh God, why is this happening or whatever? Cause you were just always a happy guy, like just a fun, loving life. Not a whole lot got you down, at least from my perspective, what I remember growing up with you. Well,
I always thought cause I thought something was wrong with me at first. I'm like, all right, stuff's going down. Like, why am I not crying? Why am I not and I just had the joy. I think it had to come from God. I just had joy at all times. So you say happiness. I say, happy is temporary. So I have those moments where I'm really happy. When I get a new pair of Jordans, a new video game or something. Now it's a new computer or something like that.
Yeah, right.
But I just always had joy in my life, no matter what it was. And I'm happy and I'm blessed to have that, because not everybody is always just joyful for no reason. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think it's a blessing and a curse. Like, I laugh at everything. Like, I can't help it. But I just never thought I was hiding anything. That's just how I felt. I wasn't covering, masking anything. but I would question myself, like, is this normal to have emotions like this? You know, not crying when someone passes away, or I'm just like, well, it's weird. But whatever. I was like, this is just how I am. So as a young age, my freshman year when my dad passed, everyone kind of looked towards me. It wasn't like verbally put out there, like, hey, we're going to lean on you, Perce. It just seemed to happen that way.
Just the natural progression of things. Yeah.
Because I was, a clown. And I guess I brought smiles to people, which I see that in my son. So I never thought like, hey, I bring smiles to people's face. That's what I do. I never thought about that until people started mentioning it to me. But my son, I can see it. And I'm just like, when I put my son to bed on my nights, so me and Krista alternate. She has one night with Perce, and that night I'm with Peyton. And then we flip-flop every other night.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So when I pray with him, it's just crazy to hear it, because I wasn't doing this at this age, but I wanted to steal it in his life early. Just his prayers, man. It's funny. And just,
what's he pray for?
Well, now, after Easter, his prayers used to, before Easter, this past Easter, his prayers were, Lord, protect us from evil. Thank you for our food, our house, our family. And if he wanted something, Lord, I want this Beyblade or something like that. Now it is, Lord, thank you for sacrificing your son so we could, have eternal life, and thank you for forgiving our sins. And
jeez.
Yeah, I'm like, dang.
He's how old?
He's 6.
Okay. Well,
yeah. So, because he models, here's my prayer. After he prays, I pray. And I always try to have the professional prayer, Some people take pride in their prayer language. Like, I try not to, because that's obviously not, that's not the point of it.
No,
my prayers are top notch, man. Your prayers don't sound good as my prayers, but it's almost like a thing. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that, but
yeah. Cause God listens closer the more professional you sound.
He only answers if you don't stutter.
Dear Lord, Father God. Yeah. That's how you get his attention.
Yeah, exactly. But, man, I feel like I should be further along. This is what happens. But yeah, so my mom and that relationship, actually my sisters had, when they, broke down the door and busted in and, arrested my mom and stepdad, I want to say my sisters were maybe 4 and 6 or something like that. I don't know. They were in between those ages. And they had guns pointing at their face. The police bust down the door and guns just in my sister's face. I wasn't there, so I lived up the street. So obviously when I heard this, I was, I went through my hating the police phase. Because, I didn't know how serious it was until I got older. When I was like 6th grade, I was like, damn, my mom really messed up. Yeah. And you know how long those things take, so that's why she didn't go to prison for a while. But, man, it was crazy just having that happen in my world, being like, wow, like, this is like real life Grand Theft Auto, like helicopter stuff going on. I'm like, this is crazy. But I always had stable people, even outside my family. And I think we talked about this before, but the teachers, the coaches at Dover, and there's a couple people I want to have on the show, later too, as well, with coaches, and, just the impact and the love and no matter what, we're going to help Percy out. No, we're not going to, they didn't like coddle me. I don't think. It's just, they knew, the positivity, in my heart and the joy in my heart. And they want to make sure, I'm just, I'm not speaking for them, but if I saw a kid like that too, and, he had some type of future and he was smart and wanted to go to college and stuff like that, you'd probably pour into them. So that's what a lot of my teachers did, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm not sure. I don't think they singled me out. I'm pretty sure they poured into you as well.
Sure, absolutely. And this is a amazing community, and that's the importance and the impact of community, on an individual. And I always say too, you want to help out everybody. Whenever you see somebody in trouble or whatever, you want to help them out, but help has to start with that person themselves. Like, you have to want to help yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I can't help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves, because anything I do, it's not going to matter.
Man, I'm glad you said that. I've had that a lot, but I also didn't know that daily you had to pour into people until my first job out of baseball. But I kind of want to get in. So high school, obviously, let's get to high school. I wasn't really that great at sports. Baseball, I was. I made the varsity team as a freshman, but I was still bad. I had like a 16 ERA. Coach Doug Bircher, was on the day I got called up, text me my freshman stats from high school. I'm like, dude, what? I didn't need that. Like, I'm not like riding high, super cocky at this point. I'm scared. Like, I'm going to face, Miguel Cabrera.
Right.
I need you to pump me up a little bit, and we'll have him on the show and I'll ask him about that. But
there you go.
Just being like on that team, and it just, at one point I was yelling at Coach Bircher, telling him I should be on JV because my first outing was horrible. But I just never had confidence in myself, like on the field, socially, talking to anybody, like even girls. Like at some point I was scared, but I just got to a point where I'm like, you know what? If I like this girl, I'm just gonna let her know. What's the point?
She doesn't like you, she'll let you know, right?
Exactly. A lot of that was Wonder Years. Watching the Wonder Years, I learned a lot about girls.
Man, I used to watch that show all the time.
I wish I would have watched it earlier. But no. But then I had my first, I guess, real girlfriend. Who unfortunately went to Philly. No.
Ooh, but, crossing the line.
Yes. But, and her situation, her name is Elizabeth Corns. So I, like when we dated, it was like 8th grade or whatever. And, her parents, so I didn't know at the time, but they had like, I guess, an issue, I don't say people around here are racist, but it's just, you have, a vision of how you want your child's life to go and who you want them to marry. And I think they had a vision, but I never knew this. So once they met me, they were just like, we love you. They treated me, it was crazy the way they treated me. I was just like, wow. It was Sally and Dave. They were just two amazing people. And Jamal, we talked about them as well. And, rest in peace, Dave. Dave passed away shortly after my dad did. But his was sudden. My dad had cancer, and it was like a 2-year process. And unfortunately for Elizabeth, her dad passed on a heart attack, fast. So, she reached out to me whenever that happened. And so that's another reason I was like, okay, this stuff happens for a reason. And I was prepared to help someone else in the same situation. Now, obviously, I'm not saying, hey, have someone in my family pass away, so I know how to experience this.
Right.
But God does these things and to teach you things. Now, I'm not saying he killed my dad, but you know what I mean.
No, we've talked about that too. How nothing evil or nothing bad actually comes from God, but He can take those situations and use them to help you.
Yeah,
in the future.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to put, because I do get that a lot, and I always worried about the right thing to say to people. So when they ask me about God, if they see the way I live my life, and hopefully I'm an example, and they want to come to me when they have questions about that, the thing they always ask is, why does God let this happen? Bad things happen. But you got to think about it. Like evil things is everything that is against God. Mm-hmm. If God's good, there's an evil. If there was no evil, there would be no us. Because this sounds terrible, but if you look at our nature, we're evil.
And we're born into an evil world.
Yes,
born into sin. So life is the journey of understanding that and then finding the way to combat it.
Yeah. So, and an artist I get this from is Lecrae. So I listen to Lecrae, and he has a song where he just puts this out there. And I love it. But he's like, what is everything against God? Like, that's evil. So, that's anything morally bad or wrong, like lying, stealing, cheating, all that stuff. We all do that. So if you want God to say, well, I just wish God would get rid of the evil in the world, we wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But anyways, before we go down that rabbit hole, I just wanted to, I guess touch on just obviously getting away from God once I went to college. So high school, obviously I played football, was quarterback at Dover. Coach If was like a father figure. Coach Vonken was like a father figure in their own different ways.
Yeah.
And one of the funnest things I ever did was go on this college camp tour with Coach If and Daniel. Super fun. Me and Daniel in the backseat of the Honda Odyssey.
Yeah.
Traveling to all these colleges, doing these camps, trying to display our talent. playing NCAA football on the little flip down screen back. And that's when I got close to Daniel the most, because we had a little rivalry growing up. When I came from elementary school to my elementary school, South, the Superior Elementary School.
Hey, Dirty South, man, that's where it was at. But I was gonna say real quick, just for anybody listening that isn't familiar with Dover or this area or anything like that, I mean, when you say Coach Ift, that's Coach Dan Ift. He's the head coach of the Dover Tornadoes, the high school team, and then Daniel Ift, his son.
His son, yes.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure we kind of clarify.
Yeah, for sure.
The characters in the story.
Yeah. Yeah. So Daniel, was the quarterback, and then, he's receiver, then quarterback, then receiver.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So it was you and Daniel graduated together, so same class. So freshman year, he was the quarterback of the varsity team. Freshman
year, he was a receiver on the varsity team.
That's right.
That's right.
Was the quarterback. So sophomore year.
Yeah, sophomore year, he was the quarterback. And I was a receiver at that year. I was just decoration.
Right. Okay, so sophomore year, you played JV quarterback.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, story time, everybody. This is where...
Oh, shoot.
Okay, because... Whenever I was a freshman, that's whenever, as the freshman team, we ran the ball still. So I was a running back. So I actually got to run the ball and stuff. So that was like the last year I was actually good at football.
Well, we can rephrase that. Last year, you were able to show your talents in football.
All right. Well, yeah, we can put whatever kind of coat we want on that. Yeah, but I was doing, so I was on freshman team, and that was Thursday nights we played, and then Friday I would dress for varsity. Saturday morning I played JV. So I remember one morning over at Crater Stadium playing JV football, and I don't know how it got to the situation or whatever. But I remember going to the sideline, and Percy's out of the pocket, going real fast. Going to the sideline, right? So you're getting tackled. I don't know why I remember this so clearly in my mind, but you're getting tackled probably because I missed a block or something. So I'm watching this, and you are getting hit. So you got your legs wrapped up. Yeah. And you've got your right shoulder pointing down toward the end zone. So if you think about it, you're a right-handed quarterback. You need your left shoulder pointed downfield, right? So you got your right shoulder pointed downfield. And I just remember watching you twist your body to get that left shoulder downfield, and you threw the ball. And we were on our side of the 50, and that thing just launched to the end zone. I remember standing there like, what did I just see? Getting tackled. So you got no leg power. You can't put any lower body into it. You're facing the complete wrong direction.
I'm so glad you brought this. I was thinking it was going somewhere else. But
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, man. That's, God bless me with an arm.
Yeah, he did. Don't sell anything short, because when you played, so your junior and senior year starting quarterback then for the Tornadoes, you're very good. You were very good.
Here's Perci Garner. He had 5 touchdown passes tonight, and this is a little swing pass to Matt Reinhardt, and long distance for the touchdown. He had 3
and just to touch on that, so when Coach Ift told me I was going to be quarterback, to be honest, I was like kind of freaking out. I wanted that to happen the whole time, but at the same time, it was safe with Daniel at quarterback. I know he was, he's been the quarterback forever, growing up, middle school and all that. And, he's the coach's son. That's just how it was going to be. And all the pressure was going to be on him. So I was like, all right, cool. Even though I want to be quarterback, but, Daniel's probably better fit for the job. His dad knows the offense, so Daniel's going to know the offense. And then when they told me I was going to be quarterback, I was just like excited, but like, oh crap. Now this whole thing is on me now. That's a terrible thought. Obviously, football is a team sport, but Dover, the offense we took from Kenton and the Mock brothers, it did put a little bit more pressure on the quarterback. But I would say about halfway through my junior year, I kind of started to enjoy it. But the first game against the Massive Tigers was not fun.
Yeah, I do remember that game.
And then we got our hearts broken, and I actually cried after that game. I hadn't cried for losing a game in a long time, but we lost to Northwest. So, that was the first game I was like actually started to have success at quarterback. Because I was like, all right, coach is going to put Daniel back in. I'm sucking. But that game, we were putting up points and we ended up losing, heartbreaking loss. And, after that game, we were walking to the bus and coach just like, the father figure came out, he's like, basically he told me just stop crying and be tough. He was like, don't let these people see you crying. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He's like, you played a good game. Like, there's no reason. So, but after that, I started rolling. After we played Northwest, I think we went into either Oroville or something like that.
And I think so.
Yeah. And, that's when, the confidence started taking off. So, but the thing I didn't like is I always needed like a completion or something like that to just get hit or something to get my confidence where it needed to be. I'd always go into game doubting things and that carries on to what I'm going to talk about in the pro career later. I'm assuming Coach If could read that, but playing with him and, that offense was super fun. And being recruited and stuff like that, going to all those colleges with them, and being stupid and naive. And, Coach If's getting calls and he's like, hey, Percy, this is Florida Atlantic. This is Eastern Michigan. And I'm like, what? And at this time, I'm in love. So, with my wife now, thank goodness. If I didn't marry Krista, it would have been the biggest mistake not going to some of these colleges. I guess I do want to talk about Krista a little bit. So
she's probably a little bit important.
Well, I was going there, but I get sidetracked a lot when I was talking about Elizabeth Corns and that relationship. So once it was around freshman year, it was still an early relationship, so it wasn't like a real relationship. Once we broke up, we stayed friends and stuff like that. But I want to say it was sophomore year. I was going to homecoming with a friend, Courtney Elliott, and we were meeting at her house. And Shane Lester, who you are familiar with, was going with Krista, and I didn't know who she was at the time. So she was the only one that could drive. So she pulls up in her little Geo Prism. And I didn't even care that was a Geo Prism at the time. I was just like, man, we got someone that's driving in our grade? Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah, man.
And this is what, October of 2004? Yeah, 2004. And Krista walks up on the porch of the Elliott residence. And I was just like, whoa. And she had been at our school all freshman year. She was a cheerleader for like basketball and stuff. So I don't know how I didn't notice who she was. But when she walked up for the homecoming that night, I was just like, oh, wow. So I quickly turned to Shane. I'm like, Shane, like, are you pursuing her? Like, are you guys together or whatever? He's like, no, man, no, we're just going to homecoming. I was like, all right, cool. So from that point on, I have my eyes on her. And I had never pursued a girl that aggressive ever. And I think it was a little aggressive. So she basically was like, at the time when I guess confessed my feelings to her, she was like, big red stop sign, never going to happen. Get out of my face. Basically, that's the nice version. And once I never gave up. So I guess I had a nickname. Let's talk about this nickname early on in my high school career. So I sucked at beginning baseball, but I was on the varsity team. Eventually, I ended that season well. And my nickname started to be Perseverance. So if anybody doesn't know, most people in Dover just call me Perse. They don't say Percy. So Perseverance fit well. And then I showed, more perseverance with this pursuit of Krista. And there were some troubles, because back with like Elizabeth's parents, they just had envisioned their daughter, being with a certain person, a certain type of person. And so that made it hard. So once I finally won her feelings over, once I broke her down, basically the way I describe it is, it was almost like if you've watched Family Matters and Steve Urkel just working on Laura every episode is basically how I describe it. And eventually, she just caved. And I think it was just the joy she saw me and the love I had for a lot of other people and how kind of a person I was, I think opened that up. I wish I could say it was my looks, but
we'll let her comment on that.
Yeah. We might have her on here. But I think it was that, and, my love for God and all that stuff kind of just all played a factor into her kind of finally going, oh, maybe I'll give him a chance. And, at first it was rough, with her parents and stuff like that, and I can't put myself in their shoes, but I know it wasn't easy. And it's easy for people to go, oh, well, it's having an instant judgmental of both of them. But now that I know them, like, it was not like that at all. But it was just it was a weird point. And, experiencing that kind of, I guess, made our relationship stronger because we just never, we never gave up. And the long distance thing was a theme for a very long time. And when I don't know, in the Jamal episode, we were talking about just girlfriends.
Yeah.
And I know this is supposed to be before that one, but oh well. We're breaking all the rules. We talked about, the sacrifices they make for us.
Yeah.
Obviously, through the life of the marriage, we make the small ones. But it seems like the women always make the big sacrifices.
My wife just got done with a real big one, so.
Yes. Yeah. So.
Yes.
Well, you can talk. Oh, I guess we talk about it, but you can bring it up again. Just so you mean like school and stuff like that?
Yeah. No. Well, okay. Quick shout out to Stephanie for completing nursing school. I tell you what, never seen anybody work harder. It's something.
How inspiring is that? Did she inspire you to kind of get after this right here?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, a lot of what I'm doing right now with the podcast network was inspired by her and just watching, like, wow, like, if she can dedicate so much time to nursing school where, I mean, she's putting in all the effort and she's not getting anything out of it until it's over.
Yeah.
I can do something. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's
similar with Krista. Like I always say, my work ethic is good. I wouldn't say my work ethic is God tier. Like we're watching The Last Dance right now in Jordan. Like,
oh yeah.
His competitiveness and freaking work ethic is ridiculous. And I would say Krista's like up there. Her work ethic is crazy. So just for all you guys that don't know wives and how they have like a cape, just to give you a little. So Krista got sick, and it's some women get it when they're breastfeeding. Where they're like it gets a clogged duct in their breast. And
yes, we are 5.
Yes, and they get really sick, like really sick. And I had to take over the household for a weekend. And let's just talk about the things that didn't get done. So I didn't shower. Same clothes for 2.5, 3 days. House did not get cleaned at all. No sweeping, no dishes getting done, nothing. The one thing that did happen is the baby's diapers were changed.
Thank the Lord.
The baby got fed.
There you go.
But just to think like, okay, I made sure the baby was taken care of, but nothing else happened. Purse took a back seat. Like, it was just bad. And just to come home from work and not have just everything being done, house being clean, food being cooked, kids being taken care of, Purse's homework being done with by Krista, just everything you can imagine. I just I always appreciated it, but then actually having to do it with her being basically ill and not being able to do anything, because it was crazy. I hope Stephanie doesn't have to deal with it. It's called mastitis.
Okay.
Just pray that she doesn't have mastitis.
I'll start praying today. Yeah.
It's just, you get a new appreciation, and I'm just like, man, that's crazy. But yeah, so she's Superwoman, and so are all moms. And but yeah, so that relationship, going to college and pro ball, like being with Krista, it was hard. It challenged both of us. I would say morally her, because she can't morally. Is that a name? Is that a word?
Yeah. I think so.
It charged her.
We're using it.
It challenged her more with the distance because, I'm playing football at college. First, I actually went to college for football, which we'll get into in a second.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. What is this, a 2-hour episode?
Yeah.
But it made it, we grew, I guess, having to do the long distance thing. So in high school, obviously we couldn't go over to each other's house all the time and stuff like that. And then once we got to college and she went to Ohio State School for cosmetology. So she knew what she wanted to do from jump. So I wish I was in her shoes with that. She knew exactly what she wanted to do and she got that done. She got her school done and she's been doing hair forever. But me, obviously wanting to play professional sports, I went to Ball State with Daniel. So Daniel went on a full ride scholarship to play receiver at Ball State. Me, I was a preferred walk-on because I was a moron and turned down all my free scholarship. If my dad was alive, he probably would have made sure stuff went differently. But, Coach Schiff tried to do what he could do, but, I was hard ahead and I loved Krista, so I didn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I was far away.
So you chose to go to Ball State, but I mean, what were the deciding factors in there? And what were the other, what other options did you have or did you turn down, for Ball State?
So originally I wanted to play both sports in college. And I quickly noticed that no college was really going to let me do that.
Yeah.
So my first offer was from Ohio University. Great school. They have great sports programs. But they had Frank Solich as their head football coach, great coach, but he had come from a bigger college. He was at Nebraska previously.
Oh, okay.
And I just didn't like the fact that, he was coming down, and I don't know what reasons he came to Ohio University. I don't know anything. I just was super judgmental and was like, look, Frank was at Nebraska, and now he's at Ohio University. 2 different type of programs. Ohio's not on Nebraska, so he's coming down. I don't know if I'm on board with that. Never even took the time to really get to know, Frank Solich. I probably don't want to because I might regret not going there. But there was a lot of other schools that wanted to offer me, but I just was like, you're too far away. Yeah. So, my love for Krista kind of hindered my college decisions. And it came down to it where I thought I was going to Ohio State no matter what. I'm putting up all these numbers. I'm going to Ohio State. It's obvious. Because I didn't know that letters really didn't mean anything. Because I'm getting letters from Vanderbilt, Ohio State, not many SEC schools besides Vanderbilt, but a lot of Big Ten schools. And I had Illinois come drive 9 hours to come watch me play a baseball game that got canceled. And just to show you as a kid, I had no idea what was going on. Literally, that guy came to my house after the game would be canceled. I didn't realize he drove from Champaign, Illinois
Wow.
to come see me. And I wasn't rude, but I was just like, all right, we sat here, talked for a little bit. All right, I got homework to do,
Yeah. That goes back to that, when you're young, you just don't,
you
don't understand, the vastness of some of those, things that people do.
Yeah.
When you're older, you look back, whoops, yep.
Yeah, what was I doing?
Yeah.
I hope that dude wasn't driving home all right, this kid, what? But I went on a visit to Illinois for football as well. So I told the guy from Illinois with the baseball, he came for baseball. I told him, I want to play both. Football's the priority. And at the time, football was a priority because you can get a full ride scholarship. Baseball, you had to be, really good to get a full ride. Most of the time
and that's because football is the primary program for, most
in football,
colleges.
you get 85 scholarships. Baseball, I think you get 11 or something like that. And your team has to be, I think, 25 players. So
limited. Gotcha.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So it was I went on a visit to Cincinnati, and the coach there at the time, I want to say is the coach of Michigan State now. I forget his name, but he was just upfront with me, and I appreciate it. He was like, there's not going to be a way you're playing 2 sports here. And I was like, he's like, it's going to be too hard. I'm like, come on, how hard can it be? But so I took some visits. We went to Michigan, Ohio State, and all that stuff. And, I just waited too long to make a decision. So at a certain point, Ohio University and Frank Solich was like, all right, we're retracting the scholarship offer. And at that point, I had no other offers. So I was like, crap, what am I doing? And then I was like, well, I can go to Mount Union. So I went on a visit there, met Pierre Garçon. It was cool. And then I went to visit the Capitol. And Capitol's like, if you come to Capitol, we can beat Mount Union. And I'm like, no, you can't. But Capitol was close to Ohio State. So I was like, oh, yeah. And then it turns out that, Daniel's like, hey, man, there's an opportunity at Ball State. And to be honest, I never heard of Ball State until they offered Daniel.
I never heard of it either until you guys went there to play. I'm like, oh, Ball State. All right, cool.
And, Ball State. And then they had a quarterback get kicked off the team. So, and they had their main quarterback was going to be Nate Davis, who I had heard of, and I saw him play basketball. And he literally got drafted out of high school for baseball, but chose to go to college. Could have played basketball. He's like I think he might be behind LeBron in leading scorer in Ohio in high school history. By the way, didn't tie his shoes, played with untied shoes, and just schooled everybody. And then,
that's crazy.
And then obviously played in the NFL a little bit. So I'm playing behind this dude, and I guess he had been hearing how great of a quarterback I was, and since I decided to come to Ball State, I was going to take his spot. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Oh, but so you had him a little worried, though.
Yeah, that's what he said when I came there. He was like, yeah, man, I had heard about you and all this. I'm like, really? What the heck? Like, because me, I didn't know. I thought I was still not thinking of myself too highly. So I sit behind him, my red shirt. And by the way, Ball State told me if I come there, I could play both. So This is Coach Brady Hoke. And then at the end of the first season, he's like, we have our little exit meetings for the year. And he's like, nah, you're not playing baseball. I'm just like, what the heck? So, and then another year, the second year goes by, my freshman redshirt year. They get this big recruit, Kelly Page, out of Texas, Mesquite, Texas. I think he was like the number 12 quarterback in the nation or something like that. And they're like, I'm not on scholarship. They offer him a scholarship. So obviously he's going to be the quarterback going into the future. Mm-hmm. But I'm playing in the games as like the second, third string backup when we're blowing out teams. Because we had a really good year in 2008. We were 12-0. We were ranked 12th in the nation. That was our highest rank at the time. Little old Ball State, yeah.
Nice.
We had Quill Lewis was our running back. I think he finished third in rushing yards that year. Our tight end, Darius Hill, was an absolute beast. But our best player was Dante Love, who actually broke his neck third or fourth game into the season, which is, I thought he was better than Antonio Brown. We didn't know what Antonio Brown was going to turn out to be. Now we know. Mm-hmm. But I think Dante was better than Antonio Brown, definitely in college. It's just a shame that he broke his neck, and he wasn't even supposed to walk, but he walked and he can run and stuff now because he's a beast. But I also had legendary coaches at Ball State. So Brady Hoke, we all know him. He went to coach. He coached at Michigan as a D-line coach when they won the national championship. Who also, our quarterback coach at Ball State, Stan Parrish, legendary coach, coached Tom Brady at Michigan at the same time when they won the national championship. And he coached Brad Johnson when the Bucks won the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So I had a great coaching staff. We got coaches that are Giants coaches now, Steelers coaches. They're in the NFL. They're great coaches. And being in that quarterback room with Nate and Coach Parrish, and we had another quarterback, Tanner Justice, and then Kelly Page, you just like we'd watch how because we ran the same offense. We'd watch how Tom Brady ran the play, and then we'd watch how we ran the play. So that was fun.
I don't know if there's a better example to be modeling after. Yeah.
Exactly. So that experience was great, but they were up front. Coach Hoke was like, hey, we're going to go with Kelly Page. I'm like, all right, I'm going to play baseball then. And I have to tell this story, man. This story is so great. My tryout for baseball. So, and if we have to split this in 2 episodes, we can. So, my redshirt freshman year, got in a couple blowouts, and Krista always makes fun of me. She's like, yeah, you got to take some knees that year. But
I'm sorry, I don't know why that just took so long to sink in. You got to take some knees.
Yeah, she's very supportive. No.
Victory formation.
Well, she was very good at if she didn't think I was humbled at the time, she was very good at humbling me.
Gotcha. Yeah, wives, they
yeah, they're good at that.
Yeah.
But so once they told me that, hey, Kelly Page was going to be the quarterback moving forward, I had already assumed, since they said initially that I was going to play both sports there, that the baseball coach, Greg Beals, who is now the Ohio State baseball coach, knew who I was and everything. And it was just going to be, hey, Greg, I'm playing baseball now. You know, where's my uniform?
Yeah.
So it was a challenge. And luckily, they helped me out. Like Coach Hoke, even after me running my mouth, and they're like, all right, man, we'll talk to the baseball coach. They wanted me to be the backup quarterback. So I got, in contact with Greg Beals, and I talked to him, and I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to play baseball this year. He's like, wait, who are you? I'm like, wait, what? So he's like, well, we've already done our tryouts. I'm like, tryouts? What the hell? So he's like, but we'll give you a week and we'll see what you got. And I had been telling freshman redshirt year, my first 2 seasons, I had baseball players in classes, and I'm telling them, yeah, hit 94 in high school. I'm pretty good. I'm going to come out for the baseball team here soon. The first day, I could not throw the baseball 10 feet. Literally, I hadn't thrown the baseball in 2 years, just football. And my feel for throwing the baseball was just gone.
2 years you hadn't thrown a baseball?
No. Well, May of 07 was the last time I threw baseball, and then it was January of 09, so a little under 2 years. And baseball season starts in February. February of 09 is when they start playing games, like February 20th. So they're like, hey, we'll give you a chance, And after that first day, they're like, what in the world did we just do? So no one wants to play catch with me, which I don't blame them. So I'm throwing into a net, just trying to get my baseball feel back. And it's not looking promising. But they're like, hey, we'll give you a day. We're going to give you a chance to throw off the mound. So I'm in the locker room like, Lord, just let me throw like 85. Because previously I went to a carnival with all the football players, and I was like, yeah, man, I can throw like 95 and all this stuff. I throw at the carnival, I throw 75. I didn't know like those machines were a little bit, you can't really just not warm up and go throw 95 at a pitching machine at a carnival.
No.
But I was frightened. I was like, wow, I lost it. I can't throw hard anymore. So I'm praying to God, like, God, let me throw like 85. Like, let me throw at least something to show them that I can grow, maybe throw 90 again. So I go out, and we're indoors because it's Indiana and it's January. And I go in, and I'm nervous as all get out. And I get on the mound, and I'm just trying to throw a strike because I haven't thrown the ball anywhere near a person yet. So the first pitch, I throw it, and the catcher is Aaron Etchison. He catches it. He's not the starting catcher at the time, but he catches it. And the way he received it gives me positive body feedback, like body language. I'm like, okay, cool. That was good. And I couldn't tell how hard it is. But the coaches and the team, like the whole team stacked behind me, like trying to watch this freak show. They're like, oh, dude. But it was back before everybody was recording everything with their phones. So I'm so glad. But they're all laughing. And I'm like, guys, come on, dude. Like, don't laugh at me. I'm just going to stop throwing. They're like, no, keep throwing. So I throw a couple more pitches. And they're like, when's the last time you threw a baseball? And I tell them, like, May of 07. They're like, all right, throw a couple more. So I throw a couple more. And they're like, welcome to the team. I was like, what? They were like, you were 91, 93.
Whoa.
And I was like, God, you are the greatest. And that was it, man. They had the radar gun behind me, and I was just like, wow, I can't believe it. And I threw a little bit that first year, but the second year is where I came out. I played summer ball in Stark County and was the top right-handed pitching prospect in that league. And the rest is history. I was on draft boards and everything, and people were like, yeah, you'll be late draft pick. I'm like, well, I'm coming back to college. And then I had an outing against Louisville, the Louisville Cardinals. So we were the Ball State Cardinals, and Louisville, they're the real Cardinals.
The ones you've heard of. Right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And they had 6 All-Americans. They were ranked 7th in the nation. They were undefeated at the time. And, they invited us in there to beat up on us, basically. But we had an absolute stud on our team. And no, I'm not talking about me. We had this guy named Colburn Vidic. And Colburn could have went to any college, but he decided to go to Ball State because they were going to let him hit. Every school wanted him as a pitcher. And Coach Greg Beals was like, dude, you can do whatever you want. Just come here. So Colburn is this beast. And Colburn's starting the game against them. And I come in, Coach Staff. We call him Coach Staff. His name's Mike Stafford. he goes, hey, he saw me playing catch. So up to this point, I had never warmed up. I had always just thrown and saved my arm for the game. So he goes, hey, he saw me long tossing. I wasn't supposed to throw that day, so I was letting it rip and letting it eat out in the outfield. He goes, hey, you want to pitch today? I'm like, dang, I just threw all my bullets. He's like, no, you'll be fine. If you throw harder than the starting pitcher, I'll give you a king-size Snickers. I was like, all right, cool. Literally, that was our deal. And the starting pitcher, his name was Tony Zick, who was an All-American, played for Team USA, and hit 97 against us the year before. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So he's the starter. He's like 94, 95. And I'm to that point, I've only hit 95. So I was like, crap. I really want this king-size Snickers. So Colburn throws 5 innings. And holds them pretty good, but then they start to hit him a little bit. So they bring me in, and that day I had stuff that I never had before. I was hitting like 97, 98. My curveball was stupid, and I'm literally surprised that my pitch is coming out of my hand. I'm like, what in the world? And I throw 4 innings to get a 4-inning save, and we win the game. And then after that, all hell broke loose because scouts are calling my coach, and they're saying I'm going top 5 rounds out of nowhere, all because of Louisville and Colburn, because all the scouts were there to see Colburn and the whole Louisville team. So I always say, Colburn, man, I appreciate it. And the Louisville coach, he's a legendary coach, always says that too. Like, I still haven't got my thank you from Percy when he talks to Bills. But, yeah, the rest is history, man. I got drafted by the Phillies, 2nd round. Got $500,000. I was like, well, before taxes.
Well, so you got drafted. I think I was reading a couple things. Were you 77? Pick 77?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was actually at the orthodontist with my sister when I got drafted because I thought I was going to go first round, and I watched the first round. Never had butterflies like that.
Yeah. Well, talk about that for a second. What was that feeling? I mean, just knowing that you're going to get drafted and just kind of waiting to get, I mean, how does it work? I don't even know. Like, you get a phone call, how's it?
So there's scouts showing up at my games in college, and some of them are borderline crossing the line of how scouting should go. I had scouts coming up to my car like, hey, if we picked you here, would you sign? Because once you learn about baseball, it's not like football or basketball. It's weird. Like, they want to get you as young as they can. They want to get you as cheap as they can. And it's a weird situation. And my agent, Jonathan Maurer and Mike Montana with MSM Sports, they're out of Cincinnati. And they approached me before. It was like a Perci Garner, this big time prospect. So I went with him because, he liked my faith. First of all, he was like, I like your character. You're a good character guy, and I'd like to help you out. And at the time, I'm laughing like, I'm not going into freaking MLB. What are you talking about? But he helped. Without him, I don't know how this would have all. Well, I guess without both of them. Sorry, Mike. Without both of them, I don't know how I would have ended up, where I did. They handled everything. They told me how to, handle certain things. One scout in particular, named was Junie Melendez. He was the Indian scout, so obviously I wanted to go to the Indians. And he was like the coolest scout ever. Like, we would let him in and watch me warm up, and he wasn't like weird. Like, hey, if we give you this money, would you sign? He didn't act like that at all. He was super cool, and he just helped me along in the process as well. Shout out to Junie. And man, it was a crazy time. But Jonathan and Mike, they're like, hey, these are the teams that are looking at you. They gave me like a board, and they go, this is the highest pick we think you can go. And what's the money you want? And I said, $500,000. I'll take the draft, because Coach Bills has said, hey, if you don't get what you want, if you don't get life-changing money, then we got a scholarship waiting on you. Because I still wasn't on scholarship at Ball State.
Oh, gee, wow,
yes.
Okay,
yeah. So, but Coach Bills he was the best. He wasn't one of those coaches that tried to use me as much as he could. He wanted to prepare me for the next level. So thank you for that, Coach Bills. But that draft thing, I got a 2-hour interview with the Red Sox. They were looking at me at 39th pick in the first round. And like, it was like $1 million was signing bonus. So I'm like, oh my gosh. They were asking me questions, like crazy off the wall questions, but they end up picking up somebody else. And I went the second day. But that experience, I had everyone there. The Philly scout, Nate Dion, drove from Oklahoma to Dover to Canton for me to sign my contract. And then I went and spent all the Phillies money at Olive Garden. He's like, hey, you take your family out, we'll, celebrate. I invited 32 total people to Olive Garden. The bill was like $800. Anyways, but, the relationship with the Phillies didn't really, and I think it was both sides. We just didn't click, and I'd never really reached my potential. And a lot of that was on me. And some of it was on them and the way their style was, I believe. And it just, it just didn't play out. So the Phillies ended up releasing me in 2015.
You were with them for how long then?
I got drafted in 2010. So I started playing in pro ball June 2010. And then they released me in March 30th, 2015. And that's
so about 5 years?
Yeah.
5 years in their minor league, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And because you never got called up
with the Phillies,
the MLB with the Phillies.
No, I made it to AAA.
Okay.
And I only made one start in AAA. Most of my time was in high A, AA is where I played.
What's their AAA team?
The Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs.
Okay. Dude, I got to tell you what, some of these, the minor league teams crack me up when I go looking at their names and things. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Where are they pulling this stuff from?
Yes, they're fun. They're fun.
The Akron Rubber Ducks.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, man, minor league names are awesome. My brother likes collecting all the minor league hats.
Oh, nice.
Older brother, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so that went that way. I thought my career was over. Krista was finally like, we can be a normal family. I don't have to be 16 hours away from you.
Right. So yeah, where did she live whenever, how was that relationship?
So her parents allowed us to, I would say I lived in Florida till about 2013. When she got pregnant with Perce, I made her move back to Dover. I'm like, you're going to need help. So we got married finally, and we had Perce, and we lived in Dover. And then we moved in with our parents, and our parents built a new cabin. So they basically just let us have their house. Appreciate you, Dirk and Sherry. And all we had to pay was like one bill. So they were excellent. Because in minor leagues, you don't make much money. We were just living off my signing bonus and Krista working. And then we bought a house in 2016, not knowing that I was going to get called up that year. So the Indians, when we were at Krista's parents still, after being released March 2015, I thought the career was over. Literally, I moved back from Florida, and we're sitting at the dinner table having dinner. So it's me, Krista, Perce, and Desiree, Krista's sister, and Krista's parents, Dirk and Sherry. And I think that's it. I'm not sure if Landon and her brother was there, but so we're sitting at dinner, and I get a call. This is literally maybe this is like the first week of April, so not long. I literally just got released last week. And I'm thinking about, crap, what am I going to do for, a real job? And I get a call from 216. And I'm like, this would be funny if this was the Indians, guys. So I answer the phone, and he's like, this is Paul Gillespie with the Cleveland Indians. And I was like, it's the Indians. Oh, my gosh. And I'm like, hello. And he's like, I just wanted to call and see if you're still interested in playing baseball and all this jazz. And I'm like, duh. And then that was it for about a week. Nothing back from the Indians. And I'm just like, what the heck's going on? Then they call me back, and they're like, hey, you got, flight this time if you're flying to Arizona, to Goodyear, Arizona. And that's how my Indians career started.
Wow.
Yeah. And then.
So you get the call from your hometown team, your favorite team. That's.
Yeah. We told my sister-in-law, Desiree, we're like, all right, don't tell anybody yet. Let's figure out what's going on. And then literally as we're saying that, she's literally posting on Facebook, Percy's going to be playing. This is before I even signed a contract and everything. So it's not even official. She's like, Percy's going to be playing for the Indians. And we're like, Desiree, what are you doing? But
what did that feel like? Because you said you thought your career was over.
Oh, other than it just being me getting a second chance at, my dream, it was like, this is the Indians. I grew up watching them. I was like, man, this is amazing.
Sure.
And Krista was happy. She was like, okay, if this is, the team you're going to play for, this is the best situation. They only have one team outside of the state of Ohio. So I go there, and they kind of revamp and just get me back to the basics. They're like, just be an athlete, throw the ball hard, almost throw it like a quarterback. They have great coaching staff. And next thing you know, they're like, we think you're ready to join a team, one of our minor league teams, and they sent me to that team outside of the state of Ohio. I was like,
which Buffalo? Is that what?
No, they used to be, but it was their high A team, Lynchburg, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Picture me going to a city called Lynchburg. I was like, come on, man. But it was a great team. The Indians organization, amazing, man. And I ended up playing there the second half. And I played with a lot of prospects there, like Bradley Zimmer, who's with the Indians now, Clint Frazier's with the Yankees now, and like some other players who, made it up to the Indians. And then the next year, I thought I was going to get released because I had a horrible spring training. They sent me to Akron, and I just at that point, I'm like, well, I'm just going to play for fun. This could be my last year. And 2016 was just crazy. It was just, I was throwing harder than I ever thrown before. No one was hitting me. I was like, this is crazy. You get called up. I make the All-Star team, get called up to AAA, give up an 800-foot home run my first pitch in AAA.
So that's the Clippers then, right?
Yes.
Down in Columbus.
Columbus, the Clippers. And a great organization there. And then I just become the closer for the Clippers, dominate there. And then another crazy thing. So we're getting towards the nitty gritty. And I'm like, hey, am I going to get called up or not? I'm not sleeping at all. Like I can't sleep. I'm like, am I going to get called up? Am I going to get called up? And Carter Hawkins, who's like the director of player development at that time, is like, we're not going to call up as many people as we thought, and I'll start panicking like, oh my gosh, I've never pitched this good in my life. Like, this is my chance. And we're in the bullpen and we're in Durham, Bull Durham. We're playing against the Tampa Bay Rays AAA. And, TJ House comes out. I was like, hey, we just got Coco Crisp and we're going to send some prospects to Oakland. I'm like, crap. Could that be me? So after the game, I'm in the shower. They're like, Percy, Skip needs to see you in the office. I'm like, oh, I'm going to Oakland, dude. I'm going to be in this trade. So I take forever to get in there. They're all waiting. They're like, what are you doing? What took you so long? I'm like, I was just showering, And they're like, well, I'm assuming I'm going to Oakland. They're like, well, we got something to tell you. I'm like, all right, what is it? They're like, you're going to Cleveland. I was just like, I just gave everybody a hug in the room, and it was crazy. And couldn't sleep that night, of course. Had to get on a 6 a.m. flight. The game was it was an earlier game. No, it was a late game. But I flew from North Carolina at 6 a.m., got into Cleveland, went to a hotel, then walked to the stadium from the hotel in Cleveland. And, no one knows who I am, so I can walk. I'm not like Lindor trying to walk the streets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was just crazy. And then I get in that night. It was magical, man.
I remember that, that day, because I don't remember exactly how. I think it was on Facebook. People were posting, Percy called up to the Indians, and just thinking that is so amazing. It was such a cool. I was so happy for you. Seeing that, and then it was just really weird how things played out, like from my perspective back then, because how did that happen? I called my dad that day just to chat for whatever reason, and he's like, oh yeah, we're on our way up to the Indians game. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, did you see Percy's going to? And I said, yeah. So we talked about that for a second. He's like, wouldn't that be cool if he got in tonight? So I remember watching the game on my TV at home, and then they were showing you over the third base dugout there, and Krista was there, and a lot of your friends, and I remember I'm like, oh my God, my mom and dad are like 8 rows back.
Really?
Like I could see them on TV, so I'm taking pictures of with my phone of the TV set. I'm like, you guys are on TV behind Percy. Yeah, and then you got in.
Yeah.
You got in.
Yeah, I got my first strikeout.
Who was your first strikeout?
Max Kepler from the Minnesota Twins. Great hitter, actually.
No slouch at all.
Yeah.
Keep throwing that sinker.
Got him.
He did.
Perci Garner with his first major league strikeout.
It's funny, before we came in this morning, I was watching on YouTube that strikeout.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were saying, something about see if he sticks with that slider.
Oh, yeah. went back with the fastball. When I got there, the Indians were like, so we're going through all the game plan, and it's high level. I'm in this pitchers meeting like, what? You got to pitch this guy like this. He likes this. You got to do this. And I asked Mickey Callaway after the meeting, I'm like, so wait, am I supposed to remember all that? He goes, no, just go out there and throw the ball hard. You'll be all right. So I was like, okay. But
so it was a fastball you struck him out on?
Yeah, it was a fastball inside.
96.
Yeah.
I think it's at least what I saw on the graphic there.
Yeah, and Naquin and because they had heard me throwing 99 and, you know, being like 97, 99 in Columbus. And I ain't gonna lie, I was a little nervous and I wasn't letting full loose.
How could you not be nervous?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
And I didn't let it all hang out, man. And Naquin, after the first inning, was like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I saw 94 on the scoreboard the first time. That's not you. You better let it out. And then Trevor Bauer, of course, is like, dude, I thought you threw hard, bro.
3 complete from the Motor City. Perci Garner puts up the first 0 of the night for the Indians pitching staff. They trail it 5-0.
What's Trevor Bauer like anyway?
He was actually my locker mate. He was pretty cool. You know, it's not the one thing I think he just rubs people the wrong way is because he doesn't he just says what he thinks.
You don't got to wonder what he's thinking, right? Yeah.
But we kind of like a lot of the same things. He's a little bit on a different level than I am. I'm a nerd, but he's like super like physics nerd, like on a different level. Like I'm math and computers. He's on another level, but he was a cool dude. And I respect that, you know, he's not going to shy away from telling people what he feels no matter what, because he doesn't do that to be mean. He does it because he thinks that everyone should be like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Indians are great dudes, great team. None of the people always ask me like, yeah, who was the worst guy up there? Who was the best? I'm like, dude, there wasn't one guy where I was like, man, this guy sucks. They were all like crazy, like great teammates. That's why I think made it so far, is because we're like a family up there, and they accepted me with open arms, and they just helped me out as much as they can.
Yeah, because that was the World Series year.
Yes, World Series year. Got the experience that. Didn't get to pitch in the playoffs because of, by the time the season ended, before the postseason, I was throwing like 90-mile-an-hour. My arm was done. I'd thrown 90 innings that year, and I think with the playoffs, Andrew Miller ended up at 90 innings. So my arm was just torched. So Terry Francona was like, you know, manager of the Indians was like, you know, just go home and don't pick up a ball for a while. And they brought me back for a couple games and stuff, but it was a great experience. And you know, next year was going to be my breakout year, the 2017 season. Injuries, one thing led to another. Ended up with the Baltimore Orioles. Then never was the same because they remember that 99-mile-an-hour Percy. Hence the title, but they weren't getting that after my surgery. So, and it was business. I understood. So, but I loved the Baltimore Orioles organization. The Pirates want to give me a chance, and I probably should have took that chance. They had great staff, man. And I don't want to say I have regrets, but I just want to see what it would have been like if I would have signed with the Pirates. But now I'm working at ComDoc in the business world, and you know, trying to learn that lane and learning from, you know, Steve and all the business professionals, and just trying to soak up all that information after soaking up so much of baseball. And it's been a long ride, and you know, I still got people and all my friends, Micah Mills, Eric Williams, Daniel. This COVID-19 kind of helped us reconnect again. So it's been magical connecting with those guys, because the friendships, it was like a movie. Wasn't like Varsity Blues or nothing like that. You know, we were good, wholesome kids, you know. But we definitely had some great times, and hopefully I can get some of them on the show too. But this is long, man.
This is long. Well, you know it would be. I mean,
yeah. Once I get talking,
31 years of experience here.
Yeah, I was waiting on you to look down. I'm like, all right, dude, we got to wrap it up. But
no, I'm not cutting any of this off.
But
it's good. I mean, yeah. It was funny just watching even the highlights this morning on YouTube of you pitching for the Indians. It's like, wow, man, like Percy pitched for the Indians. Yeah. Like it's just so cool. So
it's hard for me not to go, man. I wanted my career to be super long, and everyone's like, dude, you did what a lot of people dream about doing. You know, .0000 some % people actually get to do it. And I feel blessed for the opportunity to get to meet a lot of people in the baseball world and just experience that. But the one thing which I think I'll probably touch on with the another podcast on this network, just my ability to handle failure. So I was able to handle adversity, parents passing away, going to jail, losing family members and friends and stuff like that. But I did not handle failure right, you know. And I learned about, you know, but it affected me big time. So, but we'll touch on that on a different podcast. So here coming up. But yeah, man, I'm excited to take on new challenges. I love, you know, what you're doing here with the design, web development, all that stuff. And, you know, I'm going to try to learn and attack that. I might need some help from you, but trying to attack that. And, you know, I'm streaming video games. What else am I doing? Doing baseball lessons, trying to, you know, basically with this, you said Stephanie inspired you. I'm trying to, I guess, just not be all the stuff I want to do it instead of just going, yeah, man, eventually I'm going to, you know, have a YouTube page and do this and that. And
yeah,
attack it.
For me, it's I don't want to be, you know, 50 or 60 years old one day and say, well, what if I'd have kept going with that podcast network? You know, I don't ever want to look back. I'd rather take a chance and fail and say, okay, well, I tried.
Yeah.
Then look back and say, I never even tried.
Yeah, because I mean, if you listen to all the greats like Michael and Kobe and all them stuff, they say failure is what, you know, got them to where they are. You know, so it's because they took risk. But if you want to be safe and make sure you succeed all the time, you're probably not going to succeed totally. But
right. And I mean, for you, I mean, if you think, you know, you said your grandpa was 90, so if you look at you and say you live 90, 1/3 of your life is, you know, if you break your life into thirds, you have 3 chapters. Well, the first chapter is written, but the second one has just started. I mean, you're on page 1, chapter 2.
Look at you.
I know, right?
I like that though. I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about everything that happened in chapter 1, which we just talked about for an hour and a half, what could chapter 2 hold?
True.
You know?
I like it.
And everything you just said. So,
well, I'm you know, try to get some people on. Hopefully you guys like this content. But we're pretty much, I'm going to make sure we're going to be on everything. We're going to be on, you know, iTunes Store with the podcast, Spotify, Google, everything. And, you know, also YouTube. So follow that YouTube. What is it? Get Level?
Get Level Podcast Network. Yeah, we'll be posting this episode, and you know, every time you come out with a new one, we'll post it on Facebook and everywhere. So, you know, if you're listening and you like this stuff, please like, comment, share.
Yes,
that's important.
Yeah, I mean, you can be on all my socials too. Just if you want to, like, I've already had. So I gave a FCA speech at Strasburg High School. Well, I guess it's all the school, not just high school. And I told some of the kids, like, hey, you know, hit me up on any social if you have questions about anything. Like, I'm not one of those, I'm not going to big league you. Like, I don't care. Like, so I actually had two students reach out and ask me some questions about stuff, and I answered them back. Like, it was just awesome. I just want to give back, I guess, basically is what I want to do. So hopefully this podcast can just help someone out, do something. I don't know. So, but I appreciate Josh taking the time and helping me with this podcast and the church building, you know, Summit Church. And, you know, hopefully this is, you know, the beginning of something great. So,
yeah, we'll look back on episode, you know, 200 and say, man, you remember that interview on
when Percy talked for an hour and a half.
That's right.
But thanks, Josh, and make it a great day or not. The choice is yours. No, who said that?
That was oh man, what was his first name? Bond from Dover Middle School, the vice principal.
Yeah, Mr. Bond.
That's the thing too. When you look back at like teachers and stuff, it's always you know their last name.
Yeah,
I don't remember any of their first names because you never were allowed to call them that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Someone was disrespectful. So
yes, but yeah. So thank you for listening. We'll catch you later.
Say it feels like Casablanca. Shouting you my little mama. I got a